A few weeks ago, Val Kilmer tragically passed away, and it was far too early for his life to end. It was not that old. And I talked about how he impacted my life, especially with his performance of Batman in Batman Forever, and how it impacted me and impacted a lot of kids growing up, actually, because this was a movie that was played ad nauseum on TV over and over, and I think it resonated with a lot of people. I want to talk about that today because thanks to a lot of your support, WB has dropped their copyright claim towards my previous video about Val Kilmer. So I'm actually able to take that money, I think it was only like $30 or something, and buy food for a food shelf and stuff like that. Actually donate that, because that was my goal the entire time. When I talk about somebody passing, I don't know. Other people, they can do what they want, but most of the time I don't really feel right about it. It just feels weird, because it's like someone's life on this planet ended, right? So I like to take that and do something good with it. So like a net positive. Talk about the positive impact, talk about what they meant, and do something kind of in their memory that helps someone. And cutting in from the future here, because I go on a long rant after this, I did want to say that the point of this video, before we even get to it, and there will be more, is that WB did decide to let this copyright claim go, so it did not have to go to court, it did not have to be struck down, it didn't have to go further than this. I'm going to explain why I think that's important, and why I think this never should have happened, and why it's a terrible look. But you guys, I think, are a big reason why this happened. Sending, not threatening or harassing DMs or anything like that to WB. Never do that, please, to anybody. But just, atting them, like tagging them, saying like, hey, this is wrong. This shouldn't be happening. Why is this still happening in 2025? This used to be an issue. Why are you doing this? I think those kind of things made this spread around a little bit online. Not to a huge extent, but to enough of an extent that it was like, this is a bad look. This isn't worth it. This is a tiny ass YouTuber who barely gets 10,000 views. What's the point? And getting them to let that go. I appreciate that, because I genuinely mean this. My content, I always try to be sincere in it from the bottom of my heart. Whether it does great or does poorly, I always try to. And that Val Kilmer video was one of the most sincere videos I had made in a while. So, not to be a baby about it, but it genuinely was kind of hurtful that this happened, because it was like I'm remembering this person and thing from my childhood that affected me and hundreds of thousands of kids, and like you're weaponizing it is what it felt like. So like you guys helping with that, I appreciate that. We'll talk more about it here. Well, WB, when it comes down to it, they have a history of going after pretty much any video that shows footage of any of the movies that they've published, even if they're transformative videos. Like, even if it's like a review, which, if you know US copyright law, if you don't live in the US, that's fine. But like YouTube operates in the US, it legally has to follow US copyright law. And Warner Bros. Operates in the US, and honestly, primarily in the US. They also have to follow US copyright law. The same if I was operating in China, I have to follow the laws of China, right? That should be pretty simple math. Well, WB has had a history of not really doing that, in my opinion, of going after a lot of videos. Especially, it's interesting, negative publicity tends to get hit more, I've at least noticed, anecdotally. Like, if there's something negative, like somebody passes away, or there's something negative like, this move by them sucks, what are they doing? Anything like that, even back when there were CW shows with the Arrowverse, and someone would make a positive review, I would notice a lot of the times it would not get claimed or matched. But when it did get caught, or I shouldn't even say caught, by the system, because if you're doing review and commentary and all that stuff, it is fair use under US law. But when it did get grabbed by WB, I should say, a lot of times it was a negative video. Somebody passed away, something bad happened, this writing was terrible, that kind of thing. And so this happened previously with a video I did regarding Kevin Conroy's passing. That one I never bothered to dispute, and I still don't really know if I will, just because I don't want the video to get taken down, because a lot of you guys resonated with it, with like going over some of his famous clips, talking about, the impact he had on us. It's like, if WB needs to pocket that money instead of it getting donated for it to affect people positively, I guess whatever. I'm kind of like putting my hands up in the air on it. But whenever I've had a video that they don't like, I've noticed that it gets, like, this kind of thing happens. And to me, that is copyright abuse. You know, like I would argue, and I'm sure if I was a lawyer, which I'm not, I would probably also argue that you can't enforce copyright law like a cudgel based on your personal feelings. You know, like if I make a video and somebody just re-uploads that video like a douche, and that's it, well, yeah, that's stealing, right? Because you're taking the work of somebody and you're stealing it. That's why you can't put full movies, or at least you're not supposed to, put full movies on YouTube. It's why I couldn't upload, you know, Val Kilmer's Batman Forever film in its entirety to YouTube with no commentary, no reaction, nothing. I'm just putting it up there because that's somebody else's work. I'm then cutting into the profits of that work. I am undercutting the people who worked on it. I am replacing the original work, which is a big part of what fair use is against. Like, copyright law is to prevent replacement of the original work, and fair use is there to show, no, this in no way replaces it. Like, me talking about Val Kilmer in Batman Forever and his impact on us, it doesn't replace the movie, especially in a 17-minute video where there's maybe 5 minutes of clips hacked together, shown a couple of times by me in an editor, which took me hours. And then, you know, showing gameplay and stuff like that and talking about this and reacting, commenting, stuff like that. That can't replace an original, right? And that's why I think this is such a big deal that this ever happened, because, like, this never violated copyright law, ever. And I truly think neither does the Kevin Conroy video, neither do a lot of videos I've done that have ever gotten hit by copyright. They've pretty much, I actually don't believe I have ever violated copyright law once. I genuinely don't believe I have. The closest that I would say to violating copyright law where I actually got a channel strike, and on one hand I understand it, on another I think it's kind of on them, was back when Gotham Knights came out, and WB decided to ship the collector's edition book super early, like really early. I don't know why they did that, but they decided to ship that out early, and retailers started releasing it, like, and just selling it. And so then it was like, okay, well, this is out there, you know, like, let's talk about the game. And I still believe that they abused copyright law in that way by striking videos that talked about it, because they put that out to mass market. It's not my fault or anyone else's fault that they did it at the time they didn't want to. They did do that. But that said, when it comes to something like that, YouTube and other things usually side with the company, because they'll say, like, oh, well, it was not an intentional choice, right? And so that kind of becomes a gray area. That's like the closest I could ever see to, like, an argument for me violating copyright law. And even then I'd argue, like, why the hell did you put this out then? You know what I mean? Like, why did you release this if you didn't want anyone to talk about it? You should have held it way back and been careful with it. But that's the closest I think I've ever come to violating any kind of law when it comes to creative copyright. I don't promote piracy, even when it's deserved against some companies. I understand when people do it, but I don't go tell anyone to do it. I promote buying things legally whenever there is a thing. I avoid replacing original works, right? And so when it comes down to it, to me, this really felt like a thing where it was like, they started uploading clips of and copyright matching and trying to take down and take the money for anything around Batman Forever the moment that Val Kilmer died. I can't guarantee they're doing that. I'm just telling you that's my opinion. But the fact that, like, I had made very, very specific transformative clips to react to specific things and talk about them, and then I had uploaded those to a burner account to make sure they didn't get claimed. They still haven't, by the way. Like, they're sitting on a burner account on unlisted to make sure they didn't get claimed. Still haven't. The fact I did that, waited like a day, and then made this, and then a day later they got claimed by a, you know, copyright claim, to me tells me that essentially what happened was Val Kilmer died. They rushed to go after any video about his passing and any video about Batman Forever because it was easy money. I mean, WB's been hurting for money for a while. You know, like the fact that every time they release something, David Zaslav, it seems like is figuratively slamming his fist on a desk, like, why the hell isn't this more profitable? They're not exactly doing amazing. However, even though I also know people will make the argument like, well, you did the same thing. For me, my goal was to take something tragic that happened and turn it into like remembering someone and then do something positive with it for the results. And unfortunately, that's not what companies do. I mean, most of the time. Companies aren't looking at how do we take something sad and make it good. They're not looking at how do we help other people. They're looking at how do we help us, ourselves. We're a company. They're not a charity. And that's why this whole thing to me was so tacky and ridiculous. And I guess why I think it's such a big deal that it did get dismissed now. Like, I don't have money to do this. I would probably go in debt doing this or finding a lawyer to do it. But I genuinely, like, I don't make much money on YouTube. I don't have a lot to lose at this point. And so for me, I was kind of ready to just be like, you know what? Like, if you want to take this to court, I will find a lawyer that will, because they're out there, that is a master of copyright law, who will take this to court with me because you engaged legal proceedings, right? I'm just defending myself or whatever, because they can do that if they take the video down and you argue against it. And I would find someone who would take the case, who would want to be paid upon winning. You know what I mean? Like, that's actually genuinely a thing. I think it's called contingency pay in the world of law. If somebody else out there is in law, you can tell me if I'm wrong. But there's a lot of people who do that where it's like, hey, look, I know that you're going up against a big wig or a big company. You might not have money for this right now. That's fine. My time is worth money as a lawyer. However, I know that we will get a lot of money out of this and I will take half of that. You know what I mean? Because like when it comes to lawsuits, lawyers are the winners, really, like on either side. They're the ones who win. And so there's a lot of them that are willing to do that. And for me, I was kind of hitting the point where I'm like, I'm really sick of copyright abuse on this platform. I'm willing to take that to court, you know, if it has to. And so I'm actually glad that it didn't have to go there. Not because like I wouldn't be willing to do it, but because it would have been stressful. I feel like it would have been unnecessary. I feel like this was very much cut and dry, like it was not violating anything. And while I don't condone harassment, so never harass anybody for me or anything, like don't go in people's DMs and, you know, threaten them or anything like that. I do think that some of you guys speaking out about this, talking about it on Twitter, which I saw a lot of people, you know, like retweeting it, talking about it on Twitter, talking about how this is bad, adding WB, like actually tagging them. Not saying like, I'm going to attack you, but like, you know, atting them and saying, hey, this is wrong. I think that kind of thing does contribute to why this was fixed, because I think this was a bad look. Now, at the end of the day, is it super damaging to them? No, not really. I mean, on average, what do I average per video? 5,000 to 10,000 views? I mean, I'm a variety channel, so it's like, it's not that much. So that's not that many people, right? But I think that after that happened, and I made that video about them doing that, and that got, I don't know, 8.5 thousand views or something. Not a lot, but still, I appreciate it. And then it got on Twitter, and it started getting spread around a little bit. I think it was one of those things that they just didn't want to have spread, you know, because it was a negative. It was not good for their image. And so you guys doing that means a lot to me. I do appreciate it. Again, it's not benefiting me other than just like not having to pursue it legally. And, you know, I'm not keeping the money from that. I don't even know what it made. Genuinely, I would be surprised if it made more than $20, that video. But I do plan to actually take that money and, you know, buy food and give it to a food shelf. And I'm not just BSing you on that. Again, I don't have like the exact what it did. I was trying to look for it right now. Was not that much. But it is something that I do want to actually give back to a community with. So I appreciate you helping me with that and making that possible. Yeah, from what I'm seeing, it's like $20. It's not a lot. I don't have a lot of money. But I'm more than happy to take that, actually add to it, and give that to people who need food, you know. I just wish WB was willing to not engage in this kind of thing. I feel like it's a terrible look. I don't understand what positive impact it ever brings for the company, for the fans. I mean, they have a reputation now, almost like EA or Ubisoft or one of these groups that people just don't like. Even when they like creators who work at it or things from it, they hate the company. And I just kind of wonder, like, what is this doing for you? Like, why are you doing this? I don't know. I just want to thank you guys. I appreciate it very much. If you do want to support my channel, at least on YouTube, if I'm uploading this on YouTube, because I do upload in some other places as well, we do have channel memberships, stuff like that. The join buttons below the video, Fortnite code, our store, CosmoBunny.shop, all of that stuff. I appreciate you guys checking out. For CosmoBunny.shop, coasters, keychains, trays, and more. We make them from recycled paper from comics, manga, magazine, books that are damaged, essentially that we transform them in a new medium into something new. I just think in general, which, by the way, thank you for checking that out. I do appreciate that. We're going to be at a couple of shows soon this year, but I do appreciate you helping me out with this. I appreciate you guys looking. I appreciate those of you who watched. I know it's not a super exciting video, but I have talked about this a couple times. I didn't really just want to leave it hanging, so thank you. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shui.